Hey, welcome to the Freak Show.
I'm Kristen,
And I'm Dancing David.
and we're here to talk about what's possible in a frequency-focused world.
All right, good to see everybody. On today's show, we have myself, Dancing David, back again. And with me, we have two special guests, our regular Kristen. Hello, Kristen. And who's that down in there in the corner?
And we've got Chris over from Australia.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. Good to meet you and meet with you and resonate with you today.
Great to be here.
We heard that you've been doing a lot of frequency focus things in your life lately. I think maybe we could start with elixirs because that's kind of a cool, sexy word. What's a frequency elixir?
So basically, it's a word that I coined. I've been working with essential oils in my work for about 20 years or so. Mm-hmm. And I found them very, very powerful. As long as you have pure essential oils, you can't have cheap essential oils because they don't hold the frequency. You need that chemical balance, and then that gives you the frequency. And there's a whole lot I could go into, and I won't go into detail there. And then about 4 years ago, I started creating my own blends. It was I think it was about midnight, and I couldn't sleep. And all of a sudden, this idea came to start creating my own blends, and basically these elixirs came out of that. It was almost like I could say an energy or a hologram or a frequency wanted to come through, and it wouldn't let me sleep. And it was like this I guess a sort of excitement or an electrical energy building in my body, and I knew that there was something wanting to come through. You know, when you have an intuition about something and there's this sort of building of energy or this feeling of alignment, and the elixirs essentially came out of that. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. But yeah, there's a bit more to it, but that's the essence of it. Yeah,
that's awesome. So can we just recap it a little bit on what you said there, and then I want to hear what they're used for, like how do they help people, right? So I like what you said, and I want to ask for clarification on one thing. I think you said something like really natural, organic, good quality oils is what you need because you need to have the ability to hold the structure of the frequency. Is that what you said?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or you need the structure to be able to hold the frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the essential oil is like the 3D format in a sense in which the light frequency or the specific, I guess I feel them as frequencies and tones, you know, because I've always done music. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's like receiving frequency tones. And if you don't have it's like putting plants in really bad soil. It's like seeds in really bad soil. You might have this most amazing seed, but if the soil is not right, so the essential oils are kind of the carrier. And if you don't have pure essential oils, you have a sort of fragmented energy or a split energy that does not hold and carry, like you said, that specific frequency. So I use the best essential oils that you can get. I'm not allowed to mention what they are, but they basically are able to hold that frequency because they're like pure tones or pure
structure, I would say.
Pure structure, yeah, right. to hold that frequency. So that's the most important thing. And I have a lot of friends who, you know, buy essential oils or say I'm going to make something using this or I'm going to do this, and it's often very poor quality. And I say, well, you know, you're starting with this base that is not pure, and then you're trying to build on that. So you need that pure structure to build it on. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit because it's pretty interesting and something that in my life I'm studying quite a bit. So it's pretty cool. So what I've tried to do with this part of the show is like relate what you're saying back to what people normally know in their lives. And you did that a little bit with the plant, which was helpful. Another thing that people might know is the whole Emoto experiment around emotions and water. Right. So for our listeners at home, if you've seen of Dr. Emoto's experiment, he talks about putting emotions around water and then seeing the structure of the water. And we all know that a snowflake is a structured water that's beautiful, right? And so the idea is that the energy that is around the water can affect what we're calling the structure of the water. And you might be wondering, what do you mean by structure of water? Well, you have in water the H2O, right, that we all familiar with, and you have the O in the middle and the two H's over here. And it's possible that the I think it's possible. I don't know the physics of this. Maybe you know, Chris, that the other H could be like over here instead of over here. And it's that angle, the bond angle of the molecule, that makes it be able to structure or connect or organize to other water. So when it's at the right angle, it's
Yeah,
what Chris is calling pure. And when it's not at that angle, it's not as pure. It's kind of a little bit like a negative emotion, like influence it to be over here, or a toxin or a bad chemical or whatever, influence the bond
absolutely.
angle of the water to be a different angle. And what he's saying is that if you get real organic from nature, it's nature's angle. It's not the
Yeah,
man-made influence angle, right? And that structure can hold memory or information or frequency better than the yucky structure or the kind of toxic structure, right? So hopefully I explained
absolutely.
that kind of
Yeah.
well for people at home, but it's super exciting because a couple of the companies I'm working with are doing exactly that, the structuring the water and then adding information to them to
Yeah.
provide water that is more absorbable to the body and to the plants. And then if you do, it sounds like what you're doing, which is add more information into that water because the water has more memory because of its structure, then
Yeah.
it's more powerful and more potent, as we would say, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's so true. And look, I'm not a scientist, so my explanation may not be as that with the
Yeah.
water and the H2O. But it's like every part of the process affects the actual molecules. So you know what I mean. In creating these elixirs, a lot of people just think, oh yeah, I just throw a few things that I've heard about together, and it
Right.
really becomes a lot more refined than that. Every single part of the process, it's like that thing of how they talk about the observer effect,
Right.
and in the creation of the product, if I'm not in the right vibrational state or if I'm in a bit of a flat mode, the elixirs don't work. And so I just put them, like, shelve them or throw them. It's like the energy has to be right. It's like, when you go and have some cooking from an Italian mama or something, and she just
Yeah.
puts all that love and it transfers into the food. Well, it's like
Right.
your intention, and it's the same even with the essential oils I use. The guy that started the company had a beautiful intention and pure intention and loved the product. So even that filters down, not to mention the soil that he grow them on. Like he would grow the oils on soil that hadn't been touched by fertilizers or anything or chemicals like Roundup or anything for 50 or more years, all organic. The whole process from the start to the end has to be clean and clear. Otherwise, you get kinks, you get changes in that molecule, and it's like those first few moments of creating an elixir. It's like you're planting a seed. So whatever intention that I have in that moment, or whatever space I'm in, and usually it's a kind of combination between having an intention and just being a vessel for letting it come through.
Right.
So it's always that thing of, did I create it or was it coming through anyway? And I never quite know, because it's sort of a combination of, like, I've got this idea, but it was coming through anyway. But the more I can just get out of the way and let that come through, the cleaner and the clearer it is. And the molecules, I've made batches with the exact same ingredients, but in one case the intention and the frequency is not right because of the state that I may have been in when I made it, or because maybe I was just a bit tired when I made it, or a bit whatever. And then other times it's like the same ingredients, exactly same ingredients, but the frequency is completely different. Yeah.
I have a
Awesome.
couple questions for
Yeah,
our listeners, if that's okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, Kristen.
Thank you. Um, just a couple things. One, when you get inspired and the
Yeah,
idea comes through you, as
yeah,
you say, and then you give that frequency to the essential oils.
yeah.
How are you interpreting frequency? And also, I have a second question. Where are you going for the inspiration? How are you interpreting where that comes from for our listeners? And I
For listeners.
know, because I feel it when you're talking, that because it's in your voice, as David could probably see that too, that that it's just as important to make sure that where the inspiration comes from is just as pure as the application medium.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll try and say this as simply as possible, and you can edit out the bits that are. But so when I create, I've worked with sound for years. I've done a lot of meditation, a lot of chanting, and I'll get to the second question too. But I've come to discover that there's something that in yoga they call it nada, which is like inner sound. It's like they talk about the unstruck sound. They might call it Om or Amen. They don't call it that in Christian terms, but there's this background sound which is there even when there's no physical sound. And so when I'm creating the blends, what I'm hearing is it's kind of like these different frequencies or tones that are in the inner space. So when I'm using peppermint oil, it has a specific frequency and tone. When I'm using frankincense, it has a specific tone. When I'm using a blend, it has a combination of different tones.
And you hear it?
And I hear it on an internal plane. So when I'm making the blends, I can actually hear where the blend is at by hearing that tone. And so if the blend is right on, it will either be a very pure tone, or it will kind of be like silent, like all the elements have just come together and it's fallen into stillness. If it's off, it will be like, when you have an engine and it's not quite starting. So on the inner plane, that sound and that resonance is there. So it's like, a lot of the stuff we say, the physical words, but there's waves and resonances. I don't know exactly if they're sine waves or whatever that continue on even though you're not speaking. And that's why there's telepathy and all that sort of thing, because, we can feel, sense things from people even without them physically saying it. So people may not interpret it as they're hearing the tone, but it's there. And, we say things like, it sounds good. You know what I mean? And that thing of thought, word, and deed being aligned, well, you could say in a sense that a blend, that when the elixir is right on, and then it's like, that's when I take it to market, so to speak. It's like when thought, word, and deed are aligned and it all comes together. Whereas if you're saying one thing and thinking another thing, then you've got a split energy. So it's like when they're all aligned. And as to how I receive them, I can personally say how I do. I guess it's different for everyone's intuition works differently. It's like there's a quickening of energy inside, there's a sense of excitement, and there's a feeling of, how do you describe a feeling of alignment? It's just that feeling where there's no resistance of energy and there's just this flow of joy, or it feels like a flow of joy that wants to just flow through. It's like, that feeling you get when, wow, I just know I've got to write a first chapter to a book, and there's no resistance, and you're not actually thinking I need to write this because I want to be famous. It's just that joy in the moment, and it just flows through. And I guess I just feel it as a sense of almost like a rod going through the center of my body. It feels like everything just feels aligned. I guess it's very hard to explain exactly, but it's just a knowing, an inner knowing. And I guess that's what I share with people in all my work, is that inner knowing, and how to connect with that inner knowing, and how to come more and more from that space, So, and the blends are one facet of my work that powerfully helps people to connect with that. Yeah.
We've been talking about the internet now for about 40 years as a human race, but the internet has been talked about for thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm hoping that the internet will help us really assimilate to the internet at some point. So
it's
go
funny.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny. I had an Indian teacher. I've spent a lot of time with different teachers, and I find them all beautiful, and each one has something. And he used to talk about, forget the internet, connect to the internet. So yeah.
Oh, you've heard that.
So,
I thought I coined that concept.
Well,
okay.
we'll give it to you.
Okay. Awesome. Kristen, did you have a second question? If not, I have some more awesome questions. Go ahead.
No, the question was how he brings the frequency to the oils.
But how to infuse it, how to transfer it into the oil?
How are you transmitting?
I would say that more than I'm transmitting it, I'm getting it out of the way. And when I try to sort of do it from the perspective of the mind, that's when it blocks the transmission. So the transmission is always coming. It's like in abundance circles, they say, abundance is always flowing to you. It's just that whether we let it in or not. So when you could say the timing is right for a specific elixir to come through, the frequency comes through, and I basically then go on a journey, a guided journey, depending on what I'm moved by that energy to do. So oftentimes the frequency will be come through and I'm guided to chant over the blend. So I'll spend a lot of time, I've worked a lot as, you know, with sound healing and chanting. So that may be the thing. It may be that I'm guided to go and get some flowers and put it near the blend. It may be that I'm going to speak words to the blend. It may be all different possibilities, you know, in each blend. One that I made recently, which is one of my favorite elixirs so far, we spent 3 hours with a friend and we were chanting and connecting with the energy, and it became this huge meditative space because that particular elixir needed that kind of energy to bring through it. It's like the frequency is already there on what you call the astral or the vibrational plane, or whatever you want to call it, the pure energy plane, but it's basically like it's got a download into the physical. So sometimes that process can be 10 minutes and sometimes it can be 3 days of working with a blend, with the blend, to actually allow all those frequencies. I mean, I guess I would call it the causal, the astral plane, these subtle planes of energy where that allow it to actually download into the physical. So the actual process, like I say, is one where I'm hearing the tones, I'm sensing it, I'm feeling, okay, now we've got to bring in this particular blend, frankincense, and then the tone changes and the overall constitution of the blend changes, and then eventually I get to the point where, okay, the ingredients are all there, and then I'm just led to, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to put it under the full moon? Do I need to just sit with it and meditate with it? You know, and it's different every time, but I can say that the core thing is the more of a state of joy that I'm in, the easier the process and the better quality, the more easily that energy gets translated into the elixir, because it's like they carry a frequency of joy, as well as whatever specific intention that elixir has. Yeah. So
on our last show, we talked about like a trinity of 3 different realities that people experience or go through. And we talked about natural, material, and ethereal. It sounds like you're doing, like, bringing through all 3 of those to the oils, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. It feels like that, yeah. And I think what I've always felt is, and wanted to bring through, is I knew that essential oils were beautiful, but I knew that there was more that could be done with it, that they could be a base for something that takes them beyond. They're beautiful on their own, just using pure frankincense on its own, but I knew that there was a possibility to bring through something more. And so what I feel these is something, and the experience of people who use them, something that can actually really take people on a journey and really shift stuff in their nervous system, in their energy system, in their outlook on life, especially people that are sensitive to it and who use them with respect. And that's been the experience. So yeah.
So cool. I know David is itching with all these questions, but I cannot, it's not lost on me that when in the Bible, when Jesus was born, the Magi came from all different corners of the world, found each other, found each other, and came with frankincense was one of the oils that they brought. Yeah. So I think it's funny how your life, not funny, sorry. I think it's amazing. And I
think it's harmonious.
Yes, it's harmonious, but it's so wonderful that your life's work is to teach people how to connect to that which is greater to themselves. And you're using a similar gift for them to birth that part of themselves, which is really like, it's not lost on me, that amazing connection. Yeah.
It's an ancient tool, and they're an incredible carrier. Essential oils just, really are for bringing stuff through. And I guess that's why in Jesus' time there was the myrrh, the frankincense. I can't remember the other one was, but
gold.
Yeah,
it was gold.
Yeah. Gold, yeah.
So do you bring the gold too? Because
so, yeah.
So that's amazing, Chris. Thanks so much for sharing a couple of interesting things there. And I think most of the people who are watching this, who are our friends who resonate with us, that's why they're our friends, get everything we're
Yeah,
saying. And part
yeah,
of what I want to do with the show is like expand it to people who haven't aren't as comfortable maybe with what we're saying. But
yeah,
so that's why I say, well, how can we relate it to other things like the snowflakes or the probably not too many people
absolutely.
can relate to the angle of the H2O of the water, but some people can. And
Yeah,
one thing that a lot of times people say is wine, when they're describing wine, they say it has a tone, right? So
yeah.
I haven't studied wine, but I know when I'm hanging out with people with wine, they're like, oh, this has a tone. So I'm thinking, are they thinking frequency? And what are they saying when they say this wine has a tone? Do you know anything about that?
I'm I'm not an expert on wine, but I've often felt that it's a similar thing. And my dad's a real skeptic and go, "Oh, wine's just wine, and they're just charging all this money for." But I actually do think that there are these subtleties, and that they're picking up when they're tasting wine, and that of course has to do with where's the wine grown, what was the intention, what's the quality of the all the processes that go into making the wine. So in one sense it's a little bit similar, and for someone who understands wine, or whatever they're drinking, they're going to be able to pick up the difference between something which is just sort of run of the mill and a little bit flat versus something that has that full. um,
Okay. They call it
okay, thanks.
The full
Thanks, Kristen.
bouquet, or I was going to say full body tone. I don't know. Do they
Full
use that
body
word?
tone.
Full body
Yeah,
tone sometimes, right?
yeah. So
they use the
absolute
notes, like the note
notes.
of it.
That's what it is. They say it has a note, not a tone, a note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
Right.
note. Yeah. So basically, I feel intuitively. I'm not an expert on wine, but I feel it's the similar thing. And when I do, have a little bit of wine or something, or a bit of port occasionally, it's very rare that I do, but I will be sort of looking for those subtle tones. And even though it's not my area, I'm aware that it is like, oh, there's that little bit of something there, and there's a sweetness that comes in there, and it drops off there, and the aftertaste, but also just the overall feel of it. Yeah. So.
So cool.
And so another thing you said that really was interesting to me is you said that
Yeah.
as you were starting to go to sleep, or maybe you said you couldn't sleep one night, and so this idea about the frequency of our brain at given times of our awareness or of awakeness
Mm,
is something that I think a lot of people have heard about and know about a lot. And I'm wondering if you feel in your experience, it sounds like when you're
yeah.
doing the oils today, you're putting yourself in this frequency range of joy, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily this brain beta or theta state or whatever like we think of in meditation or as in going to sleep. So I'm
Yeah.
just curious, can you talk a little bit about what you think about as things flow through you and the beta or theta state, or just the awake state, and being in like intentionally on purpose creating that state, which it sounds like you're doing by saying,
Yeah.
I'm going to be joyful in this moment and creating that purpose, instead of like, I think people might think, well, I have to be like going to sleep or just waking up to have my brain be in
Oh,
that
no, not
place,
at
right?
all.
Or I have to be meditating for my brain to be in that flow, or for my
Yeah.
brain to be the antenna of which I'm trying for it to be connected to this higher power, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody, well, at least the circles that I run into, all get that idea about either meditating or sleeping or waking up is
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But then how do we get there when we're like alive and awake and present?
Yeah. And I guess there's two ways. And look, I have a meditation practice that I do twice a day. So, I'm constantly meditating, and that obviously helps. Not constantly meditating, but it helps to have that regular practice that I've been doing for years. But as to when they actually flow in, it's kind of like, in one sense, I can't plan it. Occasionally I can sit down and say, I'm decided I'm going to make a blend now, but more than often I'll just be driving in my car, on the train, walking on the beach, doing something else, and then all of a sudden it will drop in. So for me, and this is what I teach in all my work and programs and everything, is that the key to all creativity is releasing resistance. And so the more when you're in a state of resistance or struggle or pushing against what you don't want, you know, like I don't want to have this in my life, and I don't want to keep having these sort of relationships, and I don't want this. That's the energy when it's not a good time to to try to force something creative. It's actually more like an outflowing that comes naturally when it's almost like having a kinked hose, and when the hose is unkinked, which is the release of resistance, then the water just flows. But as to the exact time, I think there's not someone upstairs, but there's some timing where it just flows through naturally, just in the same way that someone gets inspired to write a book and they can't necessarily say that in 3 days' time I'm going to be inspired to write a book. They may have a discipline once that happens, that I'm going to write a chapter a day, but the actual initial inspiration flows usually when I'm not even thinking about it or not trying. It's not anything to do with trying or forcing, but having a daily meditation or practices where you release resistance and stress and tension and come more into alignment more often, or what I call alignment, a state of ease, then that is very supportive. So I can't give you an exact formula, but that's the closest.
Yeah, and I think the whole goal of this show is to hear different people's perspectives on that, what you're calling a potential formula, right? And what works for you may not work for somebody else, but I hope that we can come to an understanding as a culture, and maybe we already have from Jesus's days. You know, they explained it pretty well in this big, long, very popular book.
Exactly.
About how to be in the flow. The question is, like, how do we bring that back in the ways that we live today, right? And for you, it's this meditation twice a day that essentially gets your thinking brain or your ego or whatever out of the way, so the flow can flow, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. And I think
cool.
and I think there's that. You know, for me, what everyone has a different thing that they offer, and I think for me, it's this feeling of waking up this primal fire in people, so that they're not just sort of sleeping through life. That, you know, actually life can be a miracle in every moment, and it doesn't mean that crap won't come up and you won't have challenges, and then you can expand to a new place through that. So that can be positive, but that actually there's an innocence to life and a miracle to life. And if you peel back, or even not peel back, but connect to that innocence inside, not as a cliche of what innocence means, but just that living energy that's pulsating through every cell. You know, Eckhart Tolle calls it the inner body. You know, that inner body of aliveness that is naturally there when we're not in a state of resistance. It's not an overlay, it's something that we've overlaid with the mind so we don't connect with it. Or we look at a tree and we just see, oh, that's a tree, I know what a tree is. Oh, that's a house, I know what a house is. But my experience is that in connection with this living energy, everything looks alive. It looks like a cartoon. It looks like, you know, this dance rather than just a static dead image. It's alive. And so it's connecting people to that, connecting people to their power, connecting people. You know, I work with a lot of therapists and creative people, and it's how to get them to in a space where they can let their own gift come through, whether that's painting or this or that or music or whatever it may be. You know, they might want to start an orphanage for people, and that's what wants to come through, and then they start crowdfunding for that. You know, it's going to be different for each, or run a show like you you guys, you know. So it's like allowing people. That's one of my big passions, is helping people to connect to that creative fire that is naturally there within, or that so.
Awesome. That's great. And I don't mean to say this in a way to change your vocabulary at all. I just want to say that what we're working towards is a vocabulary that's all around frequency. So from our perspective, or the perspective that we're starting to create, or potential perspective in the world, we would potentially say that what you're calling the fire is the song. We're calling it the song. And I like the idea of fire, and I wonder if the song literally will resonate with more people easier than the fire, right? Because the song is something that we all know, and like music is easy to understand, at least on some level, even if you haven't studied it. You know what a song is, and a song is a group of things working together that feel really good. A fire isn't that, right? A fire is a thing that's wanting to come through, and it's burning, like you're saying. That's totally true. But it's not a group of things working to build something together that feels really good. That's like what I'm trying to say is that I feel like if we change our wording, our ableness to be present in the world and have this vibrant live view of the world can come more through, right? So if we think of everything as vibrating, as you said, and we think of everything as a song or in harmony, a song has to have harmony. Harmony means all the vibrations working together in a good way, meaning not canceling each other out. And, and so I'm not saying that you need to say this. I'm just saying generally with the Freak Show or in my own life, I'm thinking like, I wonder if we started to talk about everything as harmony and as a song and as vibration, if that would actually, more people could relate to it that way, and it could shift our consciousness in a different way than the words we've used in the past, thousands of years. Just a thought. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. And well, everything to me is music and sound and frequency. So that makes sense. And they have coherent frequencies, incoherent frequencies, and when you're in a space of alignment or lack of resistance, the frequency is naturally coherent or aligned, or it is like a song. It's like, if someone's in a really, really dark space and I tune into their frequency, it doesn't mean that they're permanently in that, but if they're or just in a bad mood, we all get in a bad mood or whatever, their frequency will drop, and it is like a tone. It's like a drop in the tone or a split energy. But when we feel good, we say we're humming. Oh, I feel like I'm humming today.
Right.
And literally, in my experience, the source of creation, there is this natural hum that is there all the time in the background. And I guess that's where my work comes out of, is connecting people to that core. For me, I experience it as om, like an inner hum or an inner om. In Christian terms, they may call it amen or amin in other religions, or shalom, but it's this core background hum and song. And so if we connect people to that inner hum, and people not necessarily experience it straight away in that way, but if you connect them to that energy, then everything flows from there, rather than them trying to sort of disconnect from that and then do everything from a state of disconnection or incoherent frequencies. You're coming from that space where the song is emerging, where all song is emerging. Like on a keyboard, I play keyboard and do music. It's like that middle C is constantly toning no matter what. So you've got that, and you might have all sorts of different tones, but you've got that background unstruck sound which is constantly there, so that's the way I experience it. Yeah.
That's so cool. And what does mom do when she's making that delicious dinner that's, as you said, made with love? What is she doing usually while she's doing that?
Yeah, singing.
Exactly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we all know the experience, and I think even atheists would have the experience of going into some houses and going, oh, something feels creepy in here, or some other places just going, oh, this feels really homely and really nice. And that's because of the vibrations. And maybe one place the couple's just had a huge argument, or there's been a lot of stress, and people feel that obviously to different degrees, but that's the tone or the music that's being played in that house, and the tones are there from the anger, the aggression, or conversely the love, the joy, the whatever, or they're a mixture of both in many cases, so you get those tones and those subtones from that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kristen, do you want to share one more?
Well, how do people find you?
How do people find me? I have a website, and it's christopherblackwell.com.au, and I will send you a link to that as well.
That would be great.
And I don't know if we've got time, but do you want me to do a little meditation? We talked about that briefly on the phone with Sam.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and that just gives people an experience of, and I'll show you the elixirs too. These are just two examples of the elixirs that I create. So this is a
What's
space
the name
clearing
of it?
harmonic elixirs. Again, back to the harmonic. I don't know if you can see that properly.
Oh, cool.
So
Very cool.
I had a friend of mine who downloaded to the logo at the top, a friend of mine, Andrew, amazing graphic designer. He came up with that personally for me. And then, so that's one of them. And then this one's an earthing blend. So you can see that there.
I love the logo.
So yeah, I was really happy with that
So
when he
cool.
came up with it. And he goes, I think you'll like this, Chris. And I'm like, well, God damn it, I do. So, God damn it, that's my Texan accent, I think, something. Anyway, so why don't I do a little meditation? Why don't we do it on the energy of abundance and connecting to that inner harmony, that inner song? So I've got a bowl. I largely use the voice, and I don't know if you guys want to close your eyes or how you want to work it. We're on Zoom. I don't know what works, but so maybe we just start by taking some slow, deep breaths in and out. And just connecting to the cells in your body as you breathe in and out. And just hold a quiet intention that every cell in the body is smiling. You can imagine one of those little smiley faces, those emoticons, but just sense that every cell in the body is smiling and every cell in the body wishes you well. And just keep taking some slow, deep breaths in and out, and I'll just see what wants to come through. Just connect with your spinal column. Just put a gentle attention on your spinal column and just imagine that you're being given a brand new spine made of light, made of frequency. And this new spine will bring healing and balance to any flows of energy that are blocked in the spine. Just imagine you're being given a whole new spine. Take a clearing breath in and out. And just focus on something now that you would like to manifest in your life. And we're going to charge this up with sound and intention. So think of something that you would like to manifest in your life, to bring into being, into the physical in your life. And hold that thing in your heart, whatever it is, just feel it in your heart. And I'm just going to chant the sound Ah. Ah sound has the effect of, it's the first sound in Om, Ah, and it's the creative sound that gives birth, that brings things into the physical. So it helps to cook it like a microwave. So feeling that thing you want to manifest in the heart. imagine breathing, whatever that thing is you want to manifest, imagine breathing that through into every cell of your body, up into your head, down through your torso, down the hips, down through into your legs and feet. Imagine you're breathing the feeling of that, and the feeling of it is the most important, down through every cell or up through every cell of the body. And now tapping on your thymus or breastbone, just here, that's it. Just some slow breaths in and out, letting your shoulders unlock, maybe moving your neck a little bit, moving your hips, maybe feeling a bit of playful energy in your body like you're a little kid. When we get back to the space of feeling like a little kid, that's when the energy starts flowing. When we get too serious, that blocks the energy. Great. Now this is one thing I bring strongly into my work. Now sit, and this is for people at home as well. Sit or stand in a way that represents the energy of what you want to manifest. How would you breathe if this is already your reality? How would you sit? How would you feel? So we anchor it in through the physical. Get the whole physiology on side with that which we want to manifest. A lot of manifestation is done from the head up, and the rest of the body or the rest of the system is just like, no, I don't believe that. But we bring it right through so that every part is aligned with it. That's it. Just ask yourself this question: how would it be if every day I could experience miracles? And what if that was my normal? What if that was my normal experience? To experience and be on a frequency which is always available, where life is a miracle, and just tune into that. How would that be? And what would it be like if I'd never done anything wrong, if I just learned a whole lot of ways that weren't aligned, and all I need to do now is just to step into this new possibility, or attune like a radio to this frequency of joy, of peace, of alignment, of possibility. Great. Now imagine that your body is surrounded by a huge sun, engulfing your whole body and your whole energy field. Feel the warmth of it. And I'll chant Ram 3 times, and then we're going to do one more process to finish this off. So feeling and connecting with your whole body, and especially with your solar plexus region. The sound Ram connects with the solar plexus and all the organs in there, like the pancreas. It has a strong effect on that. Ram brings a feeling of empowerment. So taking a deep breath in and just listening to the sound Ram. Ram, Ram, Ram. Rubbing the hands together. This brings the left and right brain together. It's also what we do when we pray. It's like we're bringing all aspects of being into one point of focus when we touch our hands together. Now imagine that. Now open your hands and imagine you're sending that energy out to every molecule of creation. You're sending your energy out to every molecule of creation. The energy of the sun, the energy of joy out through every molecule in every direction. And then when you've done that, imagine that it's flowing back to you along with so many things that you're ready to receive in your life, whether it's money flow, clients, creative ideas, peace, joy. It's flowing back to you sevenfold from every molecule, rays of light and energy. And just feel that flowing back into your field, into your body, nourishing every cell. I'm just going to finish with this beautiful mantra called the Gayatri Mantra, which, to summarize its meaning, means, Dear Lord, please strengthen my intellect so that I can focus on my essence or the divinity in myself and others. So I'll just chant this just to complete. Om Bhur Bhurvas Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhurvas Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhurvas Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Shanti 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 Om. May all beings be happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so that's just a little taste.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris, for being with us today and sharing your light and your vibration. We really appreciate you and appreciate you being freaky with us.
No worries. I've loved being here. Thanks so much for having me.
We're definitely going to talk and resonate more together.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you
Thanks,
so
Kristen.
much.
Thanks, David. Bye.